Hello, welcome. This is my first video. I am Carsten from Germany, and I thought about what can I give to the world as a tutorial or how to, and I came to the point that I want to explain how you can make a game scripter happy. You may now ask, what does he mean about this? What is he talking about? Let's assume you're an artist and in a small indie team, and you do the modeling in that team. And this how-to shall show you how you can deliver your assets, your models, to the other team members, especially the game scripter, so he can use it out of the box without any hassle, or with as less hassle as possible. So let's start this by let me explain what we use in this how-to. We use Blender, we use 3D Max, we use Unity 3D as a game engine. The same process applies to other game engines too. It's not only Unity 3D that needs the attention on the 3D models like this. It's the same on other 3D applications too. Okay, let's start this. Let's think about, you made a model for your team and you upload it to the server, or you send it by email, or however. And what the game scripter is doing, he saves it into a folder, like I did here. I prepared this for you. Anyway, here are some models. Let's take this tank 2, a Blender file. I got this from a team member, and now the first thing I do is I just look it. I'm looking onto it and see, okay, this is a tank. Maybe I want to save it in a special folder because it's a vehicle or whatever, but I just take a short look on it, and okay, then I just look what it is at all, and then I close the file, and then I try to import it into my engine. I try to do something useful with it. In my case, I use Unity 3D because it's one of my favorite. Oh, well, let's close this. Make a new project. Well, let's call this how to, and I'm importing here iTween because I want to show some movement later. And well, I could do that with complex Unity C# scripting, but first of all, I don't like to reinvent the wheel. I like to use tools, like a craftsman. If he wants to nail a board against the wall, he takes a nail and a hammer and he nails it at the wall, and he don't reinvent the hammer first. That is my style of working. Some people like to reinvent the wheel all the time, and well, I'm not one of those. Okay, so I import the iTween package. I don't save this, there's nothing changed. Okay, I created a new project with iTween for movement. Okay, here I am. This is my new project, my new scene in my engine. And the good one on Blender files is I can import them directly. I can also import FBX files directly. Other engines can do that too. Yeah. They have the same capabilities. Yeah. They are able to also import everything. As I said, you have to look what's your engine in that case. Well, you take that tank. I just import that one by a drag and drop. Takes a bit to analyze all the objects and stuff. If they are many. I think that tank has many objects. Okay, let's see. Okay, here we are. Well, here we see the tank is imported. Here we have some preview, and you don't need to understand all that stuff here for now. The next thing the game scripter or game developer, game programmer, or how you want to call him, what he's doing is he's trying to make this thing, bring this thing alive. In my case, I just drop a instance into the hierarchy tree, and then I have a representation in the engine directly. Okay, here it is. Here we can see our imported tank. Well, let's add a light. I'm adding a light so it's not so dull here. Some bring light into darkness. Bit more intensity. Wow, looks quite better. Whatever. A bit more far away. Not into my way, please. Okay, let's look. This looks nice. Yeah. At the first look, you think, oh, this is great. Can imagine driving it around and that turret turns and fires bullets out of that barrel. Okay, but now at a closer look, at a technical look, first of all, if we open this here, you can see all the objects that thing is made out of. And the first thing that comes in mind, they are not grouped, they are not named properly. You have to understand, a game coder, a game scripter, or programmers in general like proper things. So this is improper. This is total mess here. This should be named, like this one here is the barrel, so this should not named cylinder. This should be named gun barrel, for example. Not for the sake of programming later. Okay, it's much easier to have a speaking name. If I have to do something special with this one thing, for example, I want to make an animation when it shoots that it makes like this here, pew, pew, yeah. Then when I write cylinder underscore 001, for example, this says nothing. This is bullshit. I want to have a speaking name, and that tells me what's going on. Okay, that's the first thing I see. And I later I show you how to do this in the 3D application. Yeah? Later I show you how to save that object So it's imported close to 100%, so it can be used out of the box in the game engine. Okay, let's go on. As I said before, the names are a problem and they are not grouped together. In the case of this tank here, normally this upper part should be grouped together somehow, because the turret, when we look it, it's obvious that it shall turn one day, yeah, and so we have to have a group here, maybe maybe a group also with that turbines here, or this thing, something that moves, yeah, that turns and stuff. But this is up to you as an artist. You have to say, or have to communicate what's going on with that thing, what it can do. Okay, in the case of this tank, it's quite easy. It's not nothing special. But maybe when you have a more complex character, more alien-like character, maybe it can jump or cannot jump, or it can dig into ground, and so on and so on and so on. That's up to you to make things clear as an artist. Okay, that's that thing. That's that one thing with the turret group. And now we come to something more technical, and you don't have to fear. It's not so complicated. I try to explain it in easy words, yeah. Though my English is maybe not the best. Oh, I forgot to say, if you ask yourself, damn, what accent is it, what this guy is speaking, I can tell you I am from Germany. I'm native German. I hope you can understand what I'm brabbling. Okay, let's go on with this next problems. If I select one of these objects here, you can see here a gizmo, and this gizmo is the pivot point, the so-called pivot point. It's in 3D modeling community and stuff. It's well known, pivot point. If you don't know the pivot point, maybe you started 2 days ago or 1 week ago doing 3D models and you still don't know what the pivot point is, I explain it now. This pivot point is, you can say, it's the anchor in the world. Everything that is done with this object here, whatever object it is, yeah, every single object has a pivot point. Everything that is done with it is or let it say like that, this object is affected by the operations that made to that pivot point. Okay, if the moving is always on that pivot point, it's not, in that case, it's not the middle of that object, which can be a problem. Yeah, it's just here, it moves on that point, as you see. Okay, let's do some undos here. Okay, this is a problem, and because of, first of all, as I said before, programmers like proper things and like linear things, and this is not linear. Look, this one has a pivot point facing this axis here, z, x, epsilon, z, you know. The z axis is facing downwards. In this case, it's facing upwards. In this case, it's facing downwards again, and so on and so on. It's a complete mess. well, it's not necessarily that it is unusable because of this. That's not the point. But it makes things unnecessarily complex. When you develop a game, complexity comes with the game itself. You have to, by any means, wherever you can, avoid unnecessary complexity. That means you should let face all the pivot points of that sub-objects into the same direction. And now you may ask, yeah, in what direction shall I let face them? This depends on the engine, on the game engine, and in the case of Unity, the Z axis is the forward and backward axis. The epsilon is the upward and downward axis, and the x-axis is the left and right axis. In other engines this may vary. I don't know, I think I'm not sure. Well, I'm not in Unreal Tournament too much, but I think the Z engine is facing upwards in Unreal Tournament, but I'm not sure. Don't pin me on this. Don't pin me on this. It's only, I'm guessing, okay? Anyway, you have to ask your team of programmers and people that have to do with the engine directly, what is the axis, where the axis facing to. The best is you ask, what is the forward axis? What is the forward axis and what is the left-right axis? What is the upwards and downward axis? So they tell you. In the case of Unity, they will tell you as it is, that Z is facing forward, epsilon is facing upward. So why this is needed? This is because, well, let me explain this. Let me explain this with a little sketch here. I also want to try out my new toy here. I have a tablet. I want to try it. This is very cool. Okay, in 3D space, in a 3D engine, we have two spaces. Give me some color, come on. There is the world space. This is the world space where the engine operates all its objects, no matter where they are. In the case of Unity, this world space is about 100,000 100,000 units in every direction. That means plus 100,000, and this here down here minus 100,000. And in every direction 100,000. So though it's not about that number, but this is the whole world space, and the objects in that world space, they have their own space, and that's the so-called local space. The outer world, the world space, which is fixed on epsilon, upward, z, depth, and x in the horizontal. In the case of Unity 3D, and this object here, an object in this in that world space, it has its own axis system, because Now the reason for this is because it can be rotated, and when you rotate it, this axis looks to somewhere else. If I rotate it counterclockwise, this axis facing to somewhere else. You can also in some engines you can rotate the world space, but usually you look only with a camera. The world space is not turning really. There is a camera is facing into the world space from somewhere, and the world space is not changing at all. Well, I hope this explains it a bit. It's what the problem is here is that if this object has if it has on birth, I name it now, on its birth, the axes are completely other than the world axis. For the game scripter, it's hard to sort that out, because one object has axis epsilon upwards, and the other object maybe the upwards axis is x, if they are imported from your tool, from your 3D modeling tool. And this is bad. This is very bad. You may now say, oh, why don't you just turn them and whatever? Well, that's right. You are right. This is possible, and this is also done often when there is no other way, or maybe a modeler cannot correct his assets because he's in holiday or whatever. You can do that, but in a long run this leads to big problems when there are updates. Let's think about this. You sent me a model where the x-axis is facing upwards. Okay, I'm turning it so that it's epsilon. 2 weeks later you come from holiday and you send me an update. You say, hey man, on my laptop the holiday was nice, I made a new texture map and I made this model looking much more good. And I'm saying, wait, well, great, send it to me. And you send it to me and the x-axis is facing still upwards, so I have to turn it again. And this is unnecessary work for me as game scripter, and this makes unnecessary communicating. I don't say communicating is bad. Communicating is the best one, and it's absolutely necessary to do a good project, but not unnecessary one. And in that case you shall make sure your objects face always naturally into world space. Now you may be confused and you ask, what the fuck is what is naturally facing into world space? Well, I explained this. It's very simple. Let's go back to my Unity. Okay. Better with the then where is my mouse? On my second monitor. Okay, well, here we are back again. Okay, naturally into world space. In this case of the tank, it is, well, here you see this tank. When I click that tank, it's the whole tank. Okay, it's the whole object, the whole vehicle, and the axes are facing quite well, but the z-axis shall face into this direction, because z forward is z. The z-axis is the forward axis, and this axis shall point into the direction where the tank is driving, because there are commands, script commands. I will show this later, maybe. Script commands that where I can say move forward. This is vector mass, and I can type vector3 dot move forward, for example, and then it moves forward. But in this case, it will move backward, because the axis is facing in the wrong direction. I hope this is understood. Not hard to understand, I think. Okay, one more thing is the place of the pivot point. As you see, when I click this one, the place is totally messed up. It's out of the object, and the best would be in that case if it's in the middle of the object. In other cases, for example, down here on the root of the turret, this shall be the pivot point where it is turning, where the turret is turning around. Because, as I said before, I give you an example. This one here, if I turn this, if I rotate this, then it rotates around this pivot point. You see what happens? Totally crap. Okay, this it's not acceptable. The pivot point has to be at least centered to the object, at least centered. And in the case of mechanical, in the case of moving parts of the model, it has to be placed useful. In the case of the turret here, at that binding where it turns, maybe in the case of the barrel, maybe we could do it. Yeah, it's good here by random, I think. Yeah, because I can imagine when this fires, I'm moving the barrel like so. Bam, 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 bam. Small animation, needs no modeling, just done with procedural. It's a so-called procedural animation, very easy to do. Looks cool, makes movement, makes interaction. Okay, so, and well, in the case of this, all these tires here, or that track barrels, or what they are called, damn my English, as I said, don't know. They are also, it's not good, because, well, let's show this. Let's show this here on that place here, on the turning part of the turret. This shall face the x-axis shall face upwards. Now you may think, man, this guy is crazy. Before he said facing the same direction like the world space, now he's saying facing upwards x. I tell you why. This is because x is left and right in that engine, and the natural behavior of that turret will be turning left and right. Okay, And because of that, when the x-axis is facing upwards, I can tell in my program turn left, turn right. That puts away so much complexity from the program, from the development, if you do that in your 3D modeling app for me before you send the file. And I think I don't know Blender. I don't like Blender myself. Also, I don't like the workflow and so on. I will show you later in 3D Max how to do that, so you understand, so you see an example. I know a bit 3D Max. I hope it's enough for sharing that. But you can use also Blender for it. It doesn't matter. Blender is also a good modeling tool, I'm sure, though I don't like it. As you saw, this was a Blender file I put in here, so it works too. Okay, I'm thinking about if I forgot something. I think I didn't. Yeah, okay. Also the pivot point of the whole thing. Yeah. Here you see that the pivot point of the whole thing. Yeah. If this object is placed in the world, it's placed by this pivot point. And when I say place this one at 0, 0, 0, for example, or place that one on the ground on that point, then it sinks into the ground. Well, let me give an example. I add a plane. That plane, scale that plane up a bit. Okay, and so there is this point, and the object is placed on that point, and if it's placed on the plane, well, don't take a plane. Plane is bad in this case. Let's take a cube and scale that cube. Scale that cube so it's our ground. Okay. Add some more nice material. Not crappy white. Damn, what's wrong with me? Here. I'm a bit nervous, my first video. The blocks forgive me. Okay, let's take a green somehow. That new material, drop it. Okay. Well, it's still a bit too shiny. Okay, let's take it like this, whatever. And let's scale the cube also, like so. Okay. Well, this is, let's assume this is placed at 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, and you send this tank, and as I said, the tank is placed by that dot here. and you shall make sure it's placed like you can place it so it's exactly at the height of the tracks in that case, because there is also, this can also be done in program. I can place an object, I can snap it to a vertex, okay, and so it's placed exactly on that plane or on that ground, but only if the pivot point is in a good position. I will show this in 3D Max. Okay, let's then, that was the last thing I could think about. What's wrong with this model? Okay, let's go then over to 3D Max. I did this before for a test, and I do it again, so you see how it looks in Blender and stuff. Okay, here we open that same file in Blender where it comes from, and I export this object to FBX, so I can import it into 3D Max. Yeah, also I forgot, when you're done or in your production version of the object, remove these cameras and lights. The cameras and lights are done by the engine. The cameras and lights are useless for the game programming. They are for you, maybe for your modeling. It helps you to see things better or whatever, but not for the game engine. If you are not told otherwise. So because I don't know Blender very much, I just export it as it is and remove the lights and cameras later. So I'm exporting to FBX. Okay, I did that before, but I override it. Because of this warning, there was a warning, I don't know what, yeah, but you will see, very interesting. Well, here, I'm exported this, now I'm starting 3D Max, and we will open that FBX file in 3D Max and see how we can fix this little flaws in that model. Starting. It takes a while, but 3D Max is good, be assured. Okay, here we go. Import. So I have on the desktop, I have a shortcut. I made a shortcut to that models, and there is the tag FBX2. So there is a big dialog. I leave that on standard. That's also something you shall always look that you do things in a way that you can keep the standard settings of tools. That helps if you have new people, they are maybe beginners. You are a small indie team mixed together of skilled and maybe not so skilled people, and keep things easy, for the beginning. Keep things not so complicated to make your dream project true. It's a good way to keep things as simple as possible. Well, I leave that as it is, as I said, and in that case, okay, well, here it is imported. Well, here we see some problems with the parts of the object. Well, let me do this bigger here. Alt V, is that in 3D Max? There is something wrong. I fixed this. I think that's because of the warning in Blender. I don't know why, whatever. Well, let's remove that lights first. Here the light, here the light, here the camera. Okay, now move that things into place somehow. I just eye this out. I have not the max skills to do here super heroic don't know what. I just eye this out. Oh shit. Remove. Undo. Okay, I have to. This has to be totally over it, as it looks like. Okay, and now pick both objects and move them closer to that body here. Okay, I think this should do it for here. Okay, forward a little bit with all, a little bit more. Okay, maybe this still a bit. That's it. Well, now. Okay, still moving a bit out. Okay, this should do it. Okay, this here is more complex. I think this shall be turned like so. Okay, this means we turn in the case of Max, we turn this, or we have to say in the case of the object, turn this in Z axis 180 degrees. 180. Yeah, here we go. Okay, and move that closer. So, well, that's good enough for my bad modeling skills. There shall be snap to vertex tools and whatnot. Well, okay, there is some material problem too. Well, I don't care about this. We are here talking about the pivot points, okay? Here is the same problem as was in the Unity engine, in the game engine, the same problem with that pivot points and stuff. Okay, I don't know how you do this in Blender. I can just show you how to do this in Max. And I want to let face all the Z axes forward and epsilon upwards on every object, because the natural forward of that object is set and left right is clear, and epsilon shall be upwards. Okay, to do that I select every object, and then there is a nice tool in Max. I can adjust pivot, and I can affect the pivot only Now I selected all pivot points in that object. I'm sure there shall be the same function somewhere in Blender. You can find this in the documentation elsewhere. And then I align it in the case of first I center it to object. This made every pivot point. Let's check that out. This made every pivot point facing placed into the center of its object, as you see here, as you see here, as you see here. It did nothing else, or not much else, but it placed it into the center of each of the sub-objects. That's a big step, the first step. Okay, then again, what we do is that pivot points, what else we do? We want to face them all in the same direction. That means we align them to the world first. The world axis in 3D Max, as you see, is down here. Align them through the world. Okay, so the Z axis is facing in the same direction. Set that it is here, they facing down. I don't know why this is. Okay, this is why ever. Okay, in this case you have to do this by hand, or I do this by hand because I don't know how to do it, how else to do it in Max. Well, I'm turning them upwards 180 here. You can see there must not be so exact. Now what happens when I take them all and then I say again align to world? Whatever. Well, again I'm taking them, I'm just turning them by hand now. Don't know what's wrong here. Maybe when you are a good modeler you know how to do that in a snap, but I am not. I'm just trying to show you how it could be done maybe in this 3D modeling app. Here this pivot point also needs to be turned upwards. This is strange. Anyway, make it so that every pivot point is facing, the Z axis facing there and the epsilon axis is facing upwards. Do that somehow in your 3D app. I made a test before and it worked. I don't know why it's not now. Sorry about this, but I think you get the grasp on it. Also make sure the X is facing into the same direction. It's like so. It shall be look like this. pivot point shall be looking like so. Yeah, like so. Upwards epsilon x and forwards z. Okay, wait, there is a trick. I recall it now. I think so. This is 90 degrees. That's right. And now? Yeah, this is aligned to no. That's also not the one. Align to center to object. That's clear. I'm really confused now, but I don't want to do another. I don't want to break this how to and check out how it works and then do it again, because this is also a test for me how I perform when problems arise. Too bad. Well, I don't want to stick here for too long. You get the point. Yeah? The set shall face in that direction, x here and epsilon upwards, and then you export the model. And for important pivot points, you just move them. You just move them into the right place, and in the case of this, you would turn it so that x faces upwards. Turn it x faces upwards. I'm not sure why it takes the other tool with it. I don't know. I'm sure if you do this in the application where the object is coming from, is made in, if you don't export it first and then change it, the workflow will be much more smooth than you see here. It's but I think you understood. That's important thing here, because then later when you say in code turn left, turn right, then the turret turns. And also make groups. You group that objects together. Say group turret, for example, and then this group. This is grouped, and it can turn later in game. Well, that was it from me. I don't want to go on here. I'm a bit frustrated because it didn't work in the end as I expected. But thank you for listening and give me positive and negative critics. I can deal with it, and I hope I'm getting better over time. making more tutorials, making more how-tos. Thank you for listening. I wish you much success with your project, whatever you do, and see you next time. Goodbye.